this is a video on the key features of graphs generally, and we're asked to find out what are the domain, the range, the direction of opening, maximum, minimum, and behavior for this particular graph. And so the domain are all the x values, and so that's side to side. And if you look at this and you bring all of the x values down here, knowing that there's a arrow on the ends of each of those, that these continue on forever. And so if you were to bring them all down to the x-axis or all up to the x-axis, you would find that they just make an x-axis that goes on forever to the left and forever to the right. And on the left, it approaches negative infinity. On the right, it approaches positive infinity. And so we show that in interval notation by saying here negative infinity on the left and positive infinity on the right. And that just means that it goes forever in both directions that way. Now, the range is all the y values. So this time we can kind of think about how to take all of these values over to the y-axis, and it would leave points there, infinitely many points. And since it goes up, it just continues to go on up, and that can go from both directions. So that that's going to be the case, but also it's going to continue to go over, but it is not going to go down forever. It's only going to go down as far as this -3. And so we would show that it goes as low as -3, but then it goes on up forever to positive infinity. And so you can think of a little bit that when it can be equal to a value like this, this dot would indicate it can be equal at that point at -3. You can show that with a bracket instead of the parentheses, like I did up here with the domain. So you can think of it like if I put a bracket down here, that's -3 is the lowest value, but then it goes up to positive infinity, and that's a parenthesis because it cannot be a place where you would where you can show that. But we don't write them like this. We always write the lowest value to the left, whether that's the domain or the range. But just to kind of visualize it, I put it like this. But the way you actually write it is over here. -3 is the lowest value, but it goes all the way up to positive infinity with a parenthesis. Now, the direction of opening, this graph opens up. You can see it's open up here. It's not open down here. And so the direction of opening is just up, which would indicate that the graph, or the equation, y or f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, would mean that a is positive. And so a is positive if you have that positive. And then maximum, minimum, does it have a highest point? That would be the maximum. Does it have a lowest point? That would be the minimum. And since these arrows continue on up, there's not a highest point. It's always going to continue to get higher. But there is a minimum. There's a lowest point. And so it's just that value there, and we would say that y equals -3. So what's the lowest value of y is what we're talking about when we talk about maximum or minimum, the y value. And so we would write y equals -3. Now, end behavior, what happens on the ends of this? So x approach, this little arrows mean approaches. This one, and over here as well. These, we would read those as approaches. So approaches. As x approaches negative infinity, that means what happens as x goes to the left. So as we move in this direction, what's happening with y? Oh, it's going up. So y is going up, we would say positive infinity. Had it been going down, we would say negative infinity. So here on the right, same thing's happening, right? As we go to the right, what's happening with with y? Oh, it's going up. So we would say, again, positive infinity. And so this is as x approaches infinity is another way of saying as x goes to the right. Then y goes up and it goes up. That's what that means.